Commissioner Gordon, Bane has escaped.
A certain architecture forms inside the minds of those who rise above their circumstances. They construct their thoughts with intention, not emotion. They do not wait for clarity to arrive. They manufacture it through disciplined reflection and decisive movement. While others search for motivation, they search for structure. While others seek comfort, they seek an edge. Their internal dialogue is not filled with soft reassurances. It is shaped by command, by direction, by purpose. They know the mind can be a weapon or a cage, so they choose to sharpen it daily. They do not pray for easier days. They prepare for heavier ones. This frame of thinking separates them long before achievements appear. Their victory is built internally long before it becomes visible externally. Their mind is the furnace, and their discipline is the heat that shapes their character. There is a pattern in how these individuals interact with problems. They refuse to magnify difficulty through panic. Instead, they dissect situations with cold precision. They detach emotion from analysis because emotion clouds pathways and clarity reveals them. When a door closes, they do not collapse into complaints. They look for the hinge. They seek the mechanism behind the obstacle. They trust that every challenge contains an instruction. They treat hardship as a skill test, not as punishment. Their thinking shifts from avoidance to dominance. They expect resistance. They welcome friction. They understand that difficulty is the tax required for transformation. By approaching problems with this hardened psychology, they build a mind that bends reality rather than buckles under it. Thought becomes strategy. Strategy becomes action. Action becomes advancement. A deeper level of cognition emerges when they assess time. They view hours not as currency, but as architecture. Each block of focused effort becomes a brick in a structure that holds their ambition upright. They are allergic to waste. They guard their attention from scatter, because scatter creates chaos and chaos destroys momentum. They measure progress in accumulated focus, not quick bursts of inspiration. Every minute is examined for purpose. Every task is filtered through direction. They know that consistency compounds into results that talent alone can never replicate. Their thinking is not accelerated by speed. It is elevated by order. They build futures the way engineers build bridges, through precise calculations and deliberate placement. A distinct sharpness appears in how these achievers handle doubt. They do not fight it through denial. They neutralize it through evidence. They gather proof of their capability through relentless follow-through. They build archives of completed tasks, finished routines, conquered difficulties. This archive strengthens their internal identity. Doubt loses power because it cannot argue with reality. Their mind is not filled with motivational fantasies. It is filled with receipts, and every receipt becomes armor. This creates a cycle where action strengthens conviction, and conviction strengthens action. Through this psychological loop, doubt becomes a whisper instead of a command. Their decisions move with firmness, because they train their mind to operate from fact instead of fear. Their perception of failure separates them from everyone anchored to stagnation. They view failure as information. They treat mistakes as feedback, not embarrassment. They do not internalize setbacks as identity. They analyze patterns, locate missteps, adjust direction, and continue forward without emotional collapse. Failure becomes a compass in their hands. It points toward refinement. It exposes blind spots. It strengthens resilience. Where others crumble under disappointment, these achievers become more dangerous through it. Their philosophy is simple. If something breaks, rebuild it stronger. If something doesn't work, reconfigure it. Their psychology replaces shame with adjustment. This single shift allows them to evolve faster than anyone still hiding from mistakes. Another distinction lies in how they visualize possibility. They do not dream as escapists. They dream as architects. Their mind constructs the blueprint of a future and then orders their behavior to match it. They visualize not for comfort, but for calibration. Vision becomes the gravitational pull that shapes their decisions. They see the person they want to become and strip away anything that interferes. They treat imagination like a tool, not a fantasy. They rehearse success in their mind until their nervous system accepts it as a destination rather than a wish. This alignment between vision and action is where the transformation takes root. Their thinking turns ambition into inevitability. High achievers carry an entirely different relationship with pressure. They do not shy away from responsibility. They absorb it because pressure sharpens instinct. It reveals character. It exposes who is serious and who pretends to be. They understand that pressure is not a burden but a catalyst. When the weight increases, their focus narrows. Their energy intensifies. Their attention deepens. They thrive where others freeze because their mind is conditioned to perform under strain instead of collapse beneath it. This psychological adaptation becomes a competitive advantage. Pressure unlocks their higher capacity. Purpose shapes their thinking more than pleasure. They structure their days around impact, not entertainment. They do not chase temporary highs, they build permanent value. Their choices reflect long-term strategy rather than short-term satisfaction. They resist impulses that derail direction. They stay committed to the mission even when no one celebrates it. This internal loyalty is rare. It separates achievers from those scattered across distractions. They operate from a sense of responsibility to their future, and that responsibility disciplines their mind with a seriousness the average person never develops. Their relationship with solitude is another defining mark. They use isolation as a forge. Silence becomes a space where deep thinking forms. Without noise, they can hear the truth of their own direction. They analyze patterns, refine goals, strengthen identity. They do not fear being alone because solitude amplifies clarity. Noise drowns intention. Isolation unveils it. Through this practice, they develop a mental independence that refuses to be controlled by trends, opinions, or external validation. Their thoughts become sovereign. Their decisions become pure. Their identity becomes unshakable. A person who refuses to drift begins by noticing how easily the world hands out pre-made desires, the billboard dreams, the algorithm cravings, the lifestyle templates packaged as destiny. High achievers recognize this trap early, seeing how subtle conditioning shapes the ambitions of entire generations. They sense the pull of conformity, trying to write their story before they have uttered a single word. That awareness alone becomes their ignition point. They rebel not through noise, but through the quiet act of choosing for themselves. When others sleepwalk through borrowed aspirations, they interrogate every goal until only truth remains. This is not defiance for theatrics. It is defense against losing your life to someone else's script. And that resistance becomes the first undeniable sign of how differently they think. Another mind rises by understanding that society rewards compliance because compliance is predictable. But predictable minds never carve new terrain, so the achiever does the opposite. Instead of accepting the default path, they dismantle it piece by piece, examining why certain milestones are glorified and why certain risks are demonized. They decode the mechanisms behind trends, expectations, and cultural pressure, recognizing how easily a person becomes a puppet pulled by invisible wires. This awareness liberates them from the collective trance. They move like outliers because they refuse to chase dreams crafted in boardrooms and marketing campaigns. They build their own internal compass, allowing their direction to come from reflection rather than seduction. That inner rebellion forms the core of their advantage. A different kind of thinker studies how quickly the human mind absorbs belief systems without consent. They see identity as clay shaped by environment unless the hands doing the shaping are your own. While others inherit goals, values, and timelines, high achievers unlearn before they learn. They purge social expectations from their mental operating system, stripping away anything that was installed by accident. Once the debris is gone, clarity finally has room to speak. Their rebellion is surgical, not reckless. They cut away ideas that shrink them and keep only what expands them. And as their internal landscape evolves, they gain the rare ability to choose ambitions untouched by external influence. Every rebel of achievement begins by stepping outside the noise long enough to hear their own voice. This separation is not isolation, it is recalibration. They withdraw temporarily from the echo chambers, not to escape responsibility, but to filter their perception. In the silence, they discover which ambitions feel alive and which ones were inherited out of convenience. Society wants urgency, achievers want accuracy. They reject the pressure to declare their path prematurely, knowing rushed decisions create lifetimes of resentment. By refusing to let others dictate their desires, they form a relationship with destiny that is personal, deliberate, and fiercely guarded. Some individuals unlock their potential the moment they realize how aggressively the world markets mediocrity disguised as comfort. Once they see that comfort chains more people than hardship ever did, they revolt internally. They choose challenges that strip illusions away. They pursue tasks that sharpen capacity instead of softening it. While the crowd clings to the familiar, they chase the unfamiliar because they understand that growth hides where fear tells you not to go. Their rebellion expresses itself through action that contradicts the norms, waking early when the world sleeps, sacrificing entertainment while others indulge, saying no to distractions others worship. Every choice signals a mind that thinks on a different frequency. A defining trait of high achievers emerges in how they question the motives behind societal teachings. When they hear phrases like "settle down, be realistic, know your place," they dissect the psychology behind them. They see that many cultural rules were designed to protect the comfort of the collective, not the evolution of the individual. So they refuse to shrink themselves to fit a mold built for smaller ambitions. This rebellion is intellectual, not emotional. They choose standards that match the life they intend to build, not the life most people choose by default. In doing so, they widen the gap between who they were taught to be and who they are becoming. Nothing shapes their trajectory more than the refusal to accept unexamined beliefs. They question everything from career paths to definitions of success to the meaning of a fulfilled life. They realize the majority never reaches their potential because they never interrogate the source of their desires. Achievers dismantle that passivity. They study their impulses. They observe their motivations. They detect when a dream feels imported rather than generated from within. Their rebellion is not loud, it is precise. They re-engineer the architecture of their mind until every ambition belongs to them completely. Those who reach uncommon heights treat societal expectations as suggestions rather than commands. They know that the world will gladly plan their life for them if they do not plan it themselves. So they protect their vision with an almost sacred intensity. They guard their mental territory as if intruders wait at every corner. And in a way, they do. Opinions, trends, tradition, fear of disappointing others, all of it tries to overwrite their blueprint. High achievers resist with patience. They understand that rebellion is not the refusal to obey, It is the refusal to betray your inner potential. The courage to think independently is rooted in a simple truth. If you do not design your identity, someone else will. High achievers grasp this earlier than others. They recognize how easy it is to be swept into the momentum of collective desire, how simple it is to follow the current and call it ambition. But they step out of the current entirely. They ask questions that unsettle those around them. They choose paths that invite doubt. They act as rebels not to oppose the world, but to protect the rare possibility of becoming who they genuinely are. That defiance becomes the engine of their rise. A wandering mind is a leaking vessel, and high achievers understand this with an intensity that borders on spiritual discipline. They know that every unnecessary switch of attention fractures the mind, diluting momentum until progress becomes dust. The moment they sit down to work, they draw an invisible circle around their focus, a boundary as sacred as any battlefield perimeter. They refuse the constant pull of distractions because they understand the cost hidden behind them. 20. 3 minutes to recover clarity after every shift. 23 minutes stolen by impulses disguised as urgency. While others scatter their energy across noise, achievers concentrate theirs like a blade pressed against destiny. They treat focus not as a suggestion, but as survival, and this devotion to attention becomes the quiet engine of their rise. Some people chase productivity hacks, but those who surpass them understand that the mind is not a machine built for fragmentation. The mind thrives when it locks onto one mission with absolute conviction. Achievers guard this principle with ferocity. They know each distraction resets the brain's rhythm, forcing it to rebuild momentum from scratch. They refuse to let the world carve them into reactive creatures. Instead, they move through tasks with the precision of a sniper. One target, one breath, one intention. The world may reward speed, but excellence rewards depth. They choose depth every time because they see what scattered thinkers never notice, that divided attention creates divided results, and their ascent begins where others keep losing themselves. There is a psychological truth high achievers never ignore. The brain cannot hold two priorities without degrading both. They shape their lives around that reality. When they enter a task, they enter fully, leaving no opening for interruption to claw its way in. This immersion becomes their advantage because it allows them to extract insights and mastery at a rate the average mind cannot comprehend. They treat work like a ritual, not a routine. A ritual demands presence. A ritual demands intention. And a ritual refuses to share space with noise. Their competitors burn hours multitasking, unaware they are bleeding effectiveness with every switch. Achievers conserve their inner fire through devotion to singular focus, and that devotion compounds into results others call impossible. The modern world encourages mental scattering, yet the elite reject this invitation at every turn. They structure their environment with one goal: eliminate anything that pulls them away from the task at hand. They silence notifications. They remove clutter. They design their day around depth rather than speed. This isn't superstition, it is warfare. Every distraction is a micro defeat in the battle for mastery. They know their mind is their greatest weapon, and any weapon left exposed becomes dulled. So they sharpen concentration through consistency, protecting it the way warriors protect their armor. That protection grants them a cognitive clarity the chaotic cannot imitate, and with clarity comes advantage. You can tell who will rise by watching what they tolerate. High achievers do not tolerate inner noise masquerading as productivity. They have learned that wandering attention dissolves ambition, and so they train themselves to remain anchored. When a task begins to bite, most run. Achievers lean in. They understand that discomfort is simply the brain resisting depth because depth demands effort. They push through the threshold where others withdraw, and on the other side they find flow, mastery, and momentum. Their success is not luck. It is the cumulative impact of thousands of moments where they refuse to let distractions steal their future. There is a discipline to their presence that cannot be faked. They do not drift into excellence. They engineer it by choosing where their attention lies. They know the average person spends their day reacting, never choosing, never directing. Achievers flip the dynamic entirely. They decide what occupies the mind, and in doing so, they reclaim control over the day. Their focus becomes a form of leadership, an internal command that says, "This matters more than anything pulling at me." That command builds an identity rooted in self-respect, and from that identity, extraordinary results emerge. To those who observe them from the outside, their ability to lock in seems almost mythical. But there is no mythology here. It is biology harnessed with intention. They understand that uninterrupted concentration triggers neurochemistry that amplifies creativity, boosts memory consolidation, and accelerates skill acquisition. They chase this state relentlessly because they know it compounds like interest. An hour of pure focus from them is worth 5 from those who divide their attention. That imbalance becomes permanent. That gap becomes destiny. Watch long enough and you will notice something else. High achievers move slower, not faster. Not because they lack urgency, but because they reject chaos. They understand that rushing is the enemy of precision. They structure their hours as if guarding a treasure, because in their world, attention is treasure. And unlike money, time, or opportunity, attention cannot be regained once scattered. This awareness transforms their behavior into something strategic, deliberate, almost meditative. Their stillness becomes their speed. Some will call their discipline obsessive, but obsession is the birthplace of mastery. They do not apologize for doing what others fear to do. They do not shrink their ambition to match the comfort levels of the crowd. They nurture their focus the way a commander nurtures strategy, understanding that every meaningful victory begins first in the mind. And when distractions demand their loyalty, they decline without hesitation. Their loyalty belongs only to the mission. Cluttered minds rarely create anything worth remembering, and high achievers understand this with a precision that feels almost surgical. They know the brain can consciously hold only a handful of bytes from the endless stream of the world, a fragile bandwidth that collapses under noise. So they treat consumption like a sculptor treats marble, removing everything that does not serve the final form. They read selectively. They listen selectively. They guard inputs the way warriors guard a gate, because they know the world floods the mind with distractions disguised as information. In that filtering, they discover clarity that feels rare in an age of excess. The fewer voices they invite in, the louder their original ideas become. And in that quiet, they begin to think differently from everyone drowning in noise. That is why their brilliance feels sharper. It grows in silence. It grows through subtraction. And this is how high achievers think differently. Ideas sharpen when the mind is not suffocating under the weight of unnecessary content. High achievers do not binge information for entertainment. They select what they allow in with the same care a strategist chooses battlefield positions. Every input has a cost. Every opinion absorbed reshapes the architecture of their thoughts. They refuse to allow randomness to shape that architecture. Instead, they choose sources that elevate, challenge, and refine their thinking. They limit consumption not out of arrogance, but out of respect for their mental ecosystem. They value inner clarity more than external stimulation. So while others drown in content they forget by morning, Achievers absorb a single idea deeply enough to alter the next decade of their life.